to our visitors, I'm having a husband's holiday today because I'm a retired minister. I'm filling in for Neil. I got an email on the 26th of December from Terry, our administrative assistant, and said that I was speaking on the 12th. I said, oh, that's a mystery. I didn't know that. And that afternoon, Neil called me and he says, oh, by the way, Julianne doesn't like to come up here when it's cold. Or I should say, Manny doesn't like to come up here when it's cold. So I said, oh, okay. He said, you mind speaking on the 12th? I said, well, okay, but what's the topic? He says, I don't know, it's all a mystery to me. And sure enough, that's the topic. Mystery. So I've been vacillating with thoughts on that. So I thought, well, let's find out what mystery really is. So I got my handy-dandy tablet, my Kindle, and I go to my engine that says, oh dear, my wife forgot to turn on the Wi-Fi. So anyway, mystery. Need to call her and tell her to turn on the Wi-Fi. Oh, here. Which reminds me, my wife knows everything. Now, I'm not being facetious, but she does. She does. And when you were growing up, everything was a mystery to you, wasn't it? So who would you turn to get your information from? Was it your parents?
Books.
Who?
Books.
Books. Books, exactly. How many sold encyclopedias for a living?
My father did.
Yeah? Yeah. My brother did too when he went to college. He sold encyclopedias. So when we were younger, that's how I got through school. Encyclopedia Americana. Because my father had a 6th grade education. He was a good handyman. He knew how to repair things, but he didn't know much about life. So when I had questions, I always went to the encyclopedia. So how many have encyclopedias now? Yeah, good. But the dates, are they current? No. It's old stuff. It's still unknowable. But in modern day times, we tend to go to our phones, don't we? For those of you, how many have smartphones? Just about everybody. Well, I don't. I have a flip phone. Because I don't need it. I don't need all that information. I have my wife. Really? She is brilliant. I like to do word search. And there's different topics when I do word search. And when there's words in there that I don't understand, I tell her the word. I said, what does that mean? And she tells me. I said, how do you know all this? Well, I went to school. I did too. All these words. She's a wordsmith, so to speak. So she knows a lot of things. Well, when I don't, when she doesn't know anything, guess what? I have internet. I go to internet, don't you? We go to your smartphone. And you do your search engine. And who do you go to? WikiLeaks. Wikipedia.
I stay away from that.
Yeah, Wikipedia. You know that Wikipedia is run by a foundation. And it's all free. This foundation is manned by professors that get together and they compile information to put on Wikipedia. One interesting thing about Wikipedia, which my wife told me, and I remember, she knows everything, right? She told me that if you look at Wikipedia and you look for an answer, and they tell you an answer, and you don't agree with it, you can change it to what you believe it is. And Wikipedia will were younger, you learn things by experience or modern day living. You learn from experience. And when you didn't know anything, you looked it up in the book or you went to some of your resources. But one of the things that you never could understand, that was complete mystery, was your spiritual life. And I had a great education, 12 years of Catholic education, and everything was still a mystery. Because I can't teach you, or nobody can teach you about God. You have to learn it your own way. What resonates with you, what you believe in, what is your belief system? As you grow up, you're told and you follow the directions of people in the know. In this case, it was religion, catechism, but don't question it. You believe everything on faith, didn't you? Until you realize, well, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense, but they won't tell you anything different. You have to believe the way it is at the moment. Because it just is what it is. Because they know better. And that's what they're trying to tell you. Remember the Waltons? The TV Waltons? Well, John Boy was asked one day to give the lesson at church. And he did what I did. You know, it was a mystery. What's he going to talk about? So he decided he was going to talk about God. And he did. He told them his concept of God and what he saw God as in his life. And somebody asked him, by the way, how come your father is not in church? He said, well, you know what? My father knows God. My father understands God in his own mind, what God is to him. And whatever it is for him, he's quite happy with that. And that's how he lives. He learns how to live in life with God in his life. Because he sees God only as love. And when you show love to everyone else, God is with you. God is with you in nature, wherever you go for a walk. So that's how we found God. And when I went to school, the seminary, they told me then that if you think you're the Messiah, forget it. You're not. Nobody can tell you about God. And you can't tell anybody else. You can give them insights of what God is about, which is what we do on Sunday morning. But I keep coming because I keep searching. Even though I've been doing it as a minister for 15 years. But there's so many things that we don't understand in life and in the universe. We had Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan used to teach us about the universe, didn't he? And we learned so much from what he taught us. And now he's passed on, and now we have another one, Neil deGrasse. He's telling us all about the universe as well. And now we have Hubble's telescope up there, going in beyond the universe. What are they looking at?
It goes far.
Right. So we're always looking for new information. But what can we know of God? What are our understanding of God? What do we truly know of God? What have you learned in your life? Well, people tell you, of course, to go to the Bible to find out about God. Now, the word mystery, one of the meanings of the words, is a murder. When I retired, I started reading mystery books. James Patterson and people like that. And I really enjoy it. Because it's a mystery. Who done it? Well, the Bible is the same thing. When you go to the Old Testament, it's a murder story. did it start? Cain and Abel. And it goes through the Old Testament the same way. It's all a big murder mystery. Who's God favoring today? So the Old Testament is a story about the Hebrew nation and how it evolved. And they're always looking for somebody to blame. That's a murder mystery. Who done it? But we tend to, in Unity, we tend to go more into the New Testament. Because it's Jesus speaking. And it's the message of the apostles and the writers of the New Testament are telling people in their churches that they're trying to establish how to find God and what God is all about. And what Jesus is trying to tell them about being more loving to each other. So we tend to go to the New Testament, more so than we do the Old Testament. So we like to go to 1 Corinthians. How many know about 1 Corinthians 13? How many know that verse? So let me read from 1 Corinthians 11. It says here, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now, we see in a mirror, dimly. But then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. And the greatest of these is love. So that's what it's telling us. When we're children, we learn certain things about God as a child. And what you believe as a child changes. Because you only know so much. And that's what Paul is telling you. Paul is telling you the obvious. There is so much that we do not know that we do know of God is of necessity, limited by our human nature, by our child's nature. We're limited in our thoughts. Just from what our parents told us, our books told us, is what we believe as children. So then we go on to John. In the book of John, chapter 16, verse 12. I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all the truth. For he will not speak on his own, but will speak whatever he hears. And he will declare to you the things that are to come. He will glorify me because he will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that the Father has is mine. For this reason I said that he will take what is mine and declare it to you. So what is he saying there? He's saying what Jack Nicholson said in A Few Good Men. What did he say? You can't handle the truth right now. You'll handle it later. Wow. You'll handle it later. That's what he's telling the people of these churches that are starting up. You don't know everything right now. And don't think you can know it all right away. It takes time. So when you're in a certain belief system and your thought patterns changes, guess what? You change your viewpoint. Next Saturday, Neil is going to teach a class on Unity Basics. He's going to use this little book. written by Ellen Davenport. Now, Ellen Davenport is a personal friend of mine. We went to the same church together in Florida. We went to ministerial school together in Missouri. She is a brilliant young lady. She was a journalist. She wrote this book. And in this book, it tells you a lot of good things. It says in the back that she teaches the 5 principles of what unity teaches. 5 principles constitute core teachings of the unity spiritual movement founded in 1889 by Charles and Merle Fillmore. These same principles reflect the laws of the universe and apply to everyone all the time. They show up in every major religion and are all reflected in the teachings of Jesus the Christ. The author encourages every reader to work with these principles, test them, apply them to your life, and watch what happens. And one person that really wrote a review on this book, it says, Ellen Davenport probes the edges of faith in this remarkable book and points the way into the future. The Christian world needs to hear the message that she brings, for it opens doorways into tomorrow. And you know who wrote that? Bishop Spong, an Episcopal bishop who sees unity principles as the foundation for the future. So it's a remarkable little book. Next Saturday, Neil's going to be teaching this. So if you haven't read it, I would advise you to go on Amazon. Go on your search engine and order it. It's a marvelous little book. It doesn't cost much. I think it's like $14. It's a great little book. So let me, as we grow up in this lifetime, we need a grown-up God, don't we? And that's exactly what she writes about. A God for grown-ups. So what would a God for grown-ups be? First, one that meets us where we are and welcomes our questioning, growing, changing, and doubting. That's how we change. We question things and we doubt things. And we put our phones away and we think about it. What does that mean to me? The idea that God is made in human's image is usually leveled as a criticism of religion. But what else would God be? God has become human in us. Our human minds cannot conceive all that is. We can't handle all that is. We cannot encompass a universe of spiritual laws and dimensions that we only guess about. So, are they trying to get to heaven? No. They're exploring the universe, the vast universe that it is. Our world religions are but feeble attempts to describe our varied experiences of the unknown. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? The unknown? God is understood as best we can. And we need a growing, malleable image of God that expands with each spiritual insight we glean. We're growing every day, and your mind changes. I know. I was a Catholic for 40 years, 12 years of Catholic education. But I started questioning, as she did too, when you read her book. Amazing, amazing. And we all go through that. When you're searching for something, you're trying to find answers of what you believe in. Second, God for grown-ups has to be more than Santa Claus. I was taught to be a beseeching, bartering, begging, bartering, and beseeching. The 3 B's of prayer. Begging, bartering, and beseeching. And we all know the little story about the boy that stole Mary's statue and hid it in the closet. And if you want your mother back, you need to do this for me to God, you know. Remember that story? It was a hostage story. Remember that? So you're bargaining with God. It has to be more than that. The ground of all being surely is not making a list of who's naughty or nice and arranging eternal reward or punishment for each. This God is the creative force behind sweeping galaxies and infinitesimal life forms of bewildering fractal patterns and perfect seasonal cycles. Who could do this? Of mind-blowing beauty and pure partial potential. The oak tree and the acorn. The child in microscopic twists of DNA. Bless you. God for grown-ups is far outside the human pattern of thinking. Any limits to God are our own. You put limits to God, just like you put limits on people. You can't handle the truth all the time. Little by little you can handle it. And if you can't find it, go to your phone. But your phone can't tell you that. It can't tell you that. You have to feel it within you. Third, most people want to believe that God is involved in their lives. Humans have always intuited a presence they cannot see, a silent source of guidance, wisdom, and support, even love. Only God could love a person like you, right? Isn't that what you say sometimes? Who can love a person of God? And have sought throughout history the connections to connect with this power. We are allowed to make up our own God. Really? We are allowed to make up our own God. Of course, it's called theology. What do you believe? You believe in your own God. How you create God in your life. When we approach God as adults, we are a prodigal son, seeing the possibilities, finally aware of the divine love that has always been available to us. Last time I spoke up here in August, I spoke about what if you were the Christ? What if you were the Christ incarnate? What if Jesus walked through those doors and it was you? Well, what if you were God? What if God were one of us? She says, over the years I have come to a visceral understanding that Spirit is who truly I am. As the image and likeness of God, and that I have all the attributes of God latent within me. Knowing I can rely on the divine self is not an exaggeration. Exaggerated sense of my own powers, it is just the opposite. I'm no better than anybody else. It is humbly turning to the divine within for insight and wisdom. It's already there. It is discovering God to be closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. So the point of spiritual growth, then, is to know myself as spirit and express it in my life. Know yourself as spirit as you express it in your life. But there are many unknowables. There will always be unknowables. While we trust in the life eternal, we don't know exactly what happens when we lay down our human bodies and our souls are free. Do we return to the presence as individualized souls, or sink into nothingness? Do we incarnate as humans, or something else, as the Buddhists teach? Could we experience life in another galaxy, in another universe? Don't know. If so, do we have a choice to when, where, and what form we take again? We need to take comfort in the unknown and know that it will be revealed to you when you're ready. What is? To be enlarged through our spiritual practices and meditation. The more we practice and seek the knowledge that we need to know, the more that we have fellowship and learn the truths of who we really are. Some questions to consider. How can I use my spiritual lens to deepen my experience of God? Do you see clearly or do you see dimly what God is like? What is your spiritual lens of God? And how can I be comfortable with the unknown and the unknowable? How can I be comfortable with that? There's a statement that says, I know that I know that I know. I know that I know that I don't